My friend is pregnant with her second child. She and her husband already have a son. They found out their second child is a girl, and the husband is in denial about it. He doesn't want to think about it because he is upset. He said he grew up with several brothers and it was so fun. He just never imagined having anything but sons. He thinks girls will be high maintenance with pink dresses and bows in their hair. How did you feel when you found out you were having a girl? Story 1. Ecstatic. I have 2 girls. I only found out beforehand about the second, but I was very excited. To genuinely care about the sex of your child shows some low moral character. Girls will be whatever they want. It is up to the parents. I have one who loves accessories and another who will run through a wall with a truck in her hand. Real men raise girls and boys. Tell him to stop being weak. Story 2. Our first child was a boy, all boy. He played ice hockey, Legos, Star Wars, and more. A good kid. 7.5 years later, our second child arrived, a girl. I was very excited but had no idea what to expect. While our first child was a decent mix of both of us, our daughter is basically me with a different gender, but cute like her mother. She is 15 now, and it's funny how we have connected on many levels. She has certain conversations with mom, some with me, and some overlap. It's a nice balance. My mind inside this girl is really interesting, and it's fun watching her figure things out, though she dislikes that I can anticipate her. Have fun. Story 3. My daughter is due at the end of September, and I am ecstatic. I have a 2-year-old son as well. I have 2 brothers and have always wanted a sister. Story 4. We had a son already, so we really wanted our second child to be a girl. Everything she does melts my heart. She is going to have me in the palm of her hand my whole life. I love being a girl dad. Story 5. I pray for your friend and their son and daughter. This is a horrible way to react to having a child, no matter the gender. I understand gender disappointment, but he is resentful over the fact that he has a daughter on the way. A daughter who will think he hangs the moon, and he doesn't even realize it. Story 6. Relieved honestly, it was what both my wife and I were hoping for. Yes, there are many pink dresses and bows and swords. Somewhere along the line, I promised my daughter her first sword for her 10th birthday, and she has not forgotten. She loves to play sports, which were never my interest. She roughhouses, enjoys the outdoors more than her tablet, and will play outside whenever possible. She will turn a wrench with me when working on our car or building something. Daughters are amazing. Story 7. Here's hoping he will change his tune once the baby arrives. What is funny is that, in my experience, usually daughters take after their fathers more than their mothers. It is unfortunate to see gender as an obstacle when it is not necessarily going to be that. Story 8. He is going to be a horrible father to her if that is the mentality he is going into this. Story 9. That poor girl is stuck with a sperm donor like that. Please be a good aunt or uncle for that child. They are going to need the support. Story 10. Honestly, I am a little upset with the world for being so unfair to women. I know it may seem a bit extreme, but the truth is if you have daughters, women's rights start to feel like a part of your own rights. It is easy for single, childless men to say, well, that does not affect me personally. I have always supported women's rights and related causes. But when I had my daughter, it became clear that I will fight tooth and nail to defend and protect those rights. I strongly disagree with the older men in charge. Story 11. I am a father to 1 son, the eldest, and 3 daughters. I was excited to have girls because on my wife's side, she has 5 nephews and 1 niece. It is strange to me to think of any less value in having a daughter than a son. I would not change a thing. Story 12. That person is unpleasant. My daughter does everything a boy does, and my son does everything a girl does. When they are young, everything is a toy and it is fun. As they grow up, they will find things they truly enjoy and develop their personalities, whether feminine or masculine. If his son grows up transgender, it is likely that he will harm or disown him. This reveals that he is an unkind person regardless of whether he has a son or a daughter. Story 13. For us, we did hope for a boy, but when we found out our first child would be a girl, there was no disappointment at all. To me, The news of the gender did not disappoint or excite me. It just made the whole experience feel more real. Then, as things were going well with our daughter, I hoped the second child would be a girl as well, but we found out it was a boy. Both are amazing. Story 14. When my wife and I were dating, I told her that if we ever have a child, I hope it is a girl because the world needs more women like her. My wife surprised me with a table of pink decorations and a sign that said, "We are having a baby girl." I was so happy and excited. We now have a 3-year-old girl, soon to be 4, and she is the sweetest little thing ever. It is cupcakes, mermaids, and unicorns every day, and I am here for it. I could not imagine being in denial over something I cannot control. Story 15. Let your friend know it is his sperm that determine the sex, so the only person he can be upset with is himself. He is an unpleasant person for this. I have 4 boys and 2 girls, and my girls are far less of a headache. Story 16. Excited, though I would have been excited with a boy too. My daughter just turned 14, and every day I am overwhelmingly proud of her. She does happen to be girly, but that has zero impact on my ability to be her dad. I literally got a manicure and pedicure with her for her birthday 2 weeks ago. I kinda got dragged along and then decided to just go with it. She picked out my nail color and we had a blast. We also do outdoor activities, and in general we spend a lot of time together. Anyway, with some girls, there are tea parties, manicures, and dress up. Sitting those things out because you would rather wrestle or play catch just makes you a sad person. That's literally choosing to be a parent to one child and not the other. Tell your friend to grow a pair and get ready to play dress up. Story 17. The more I hear about people raising sons, the more thankful I am that we have 2 daughters. However, I must say I worry about them more than I think I would about sons. Story 18. I am not a terrible misogynist, so I was excited when I found out. Any man who is sad to be having a daughter is a bad human being. If you are with someone and they say something like, "I would be heartbroken to find out I am having a daughter," do not have a child with that person. Story 19. I was ecstatic. I grew up with a brother and always wanted to be a girl father. Hopefully, he will get over it. That girl will probably have her father wrapped around her little finger before she can talk. Story 20. The last dad I heard telling me how he wished he had a boy instead changed his tune right after the baby was born. Once he looked into her beautiful eyes and pulled on his beard. His protective instincts kicked in, and the daughter had him around her little finger. Next thing you know, she is doing his nails, putting lipstick on him, and sitting with her soft toys at her tea party. Warn him before it is too late. Story 21. I loved it. I have 2 daughters. I love being a girl father. I never wanted boys, and luckily, it turned out well for me. Story 22. My wife asked me what I wanted. I said I wanted a girl. And we did. She is a tomboy, one of the guys, but it is so much fun. I am not into soccer or anything, but I still do that with her. She loves to play games with me, which is fun too. She is really a daddy's girl and loves to be with me. She is a handful, I can tell you that. My wife did ask how I would feel if it had been a boy. I answered that I would be equally happy. But you wanted a girl? Yes, but that does not mean I would not have been as happy. Sigh, don't ask questions if you don't want an answer. Story 23. Relieved I would not have to think of her name. My wife and I had an agreement. If it was a boy, I would come up with name ideas. If a girl, she would. We still discussed and tweaked them, but the task of coming up with names was preset. After that, I did get concerned. Rather than having to worry about one boy, my son, I now had to worry about all the boys trying to get into her pants. However, after all that, it was for naught. My daughter prefers the fairer sex. One side note. I was in complete denial that my wife was pregnant at first until she started showing. Now, 17 years later, I have one of the best kids one could ask for and could not be prouder of the young lady she has become, though her math scores could use a little work. Story 24. Not really my own story, but my friend's sister was pregnant. My friend is a truly feminine woman and she was hoping the baby would be a girl. Turned out to be a boy. She was very disappointed because she imagined doing her makeup with her when she's older and buying her cute outfits. However, When the baby arrived, she fell in love with the boy and now says she doesn't know why she was so disappointed. What matters is that the baby is healthy, not whether it's a girl or a boy. Her sister had another boy soon after, so now she is a proud aunt of two boys. What I want to say is that it doesn't matter. Sometimes we feel disappointed, but when we see that little one, we fall in love and everything changes. I wouldn't worry about what is said before the baby is born. That person might not know what they are missing out on. Story 25. My stepbrother has two boys, and the second loves pink, dresses, princesses, and all that. I would say be happy and embrace it. Story 26. I have two daughters and a son. Their gender makes absolutely no difference to how much I love them. That is a bit of a strange concept. Story 27. I was absolutely elated. I was hoping for a girl, and when we got the scans done and found out we were having a girl, I was over the moon. She is awesome, and I could not be happier. She is not any higher maintenance than any other toddler. Yes, she likes a frilly dress and a bow hair clip, but if that is the standard for high maintenance, then he is in for a rude shock. That is normal toddler behavior and does not interfere with any activity you would want to do with a child. It sounds like this child is in for a difficult relationship with her father unless he changes his attitude and accepts that having a child, regardless of gender, will be as rewarding as he is willing to make it. Put in the effort and you will have a great time. If he neglects her purely because she is a girl, then he is creating his own future problems, not hers. Story 28. Extremely anxious. I would have been extremely anxious with a boy as well, of course. Honestly, I just wanted them to be born healthy. After she was born, she was about as high maintenance as any other child. If you find the boy easier than the girl, you may want to consider that it is not that the girl is harder work, but that you are neglecting the boy without even noticing. Story 29. I will be over the moon. Do you know how protective I will become if I find out my baby girl is coming? Story 30. Happy from the start. We were probably one and done to begin with, but my wife's health issues sealed the deal. I was going to be happy regardless of the baby's sex. At first, I was excited and confident. I thought the world was tougher for women, so we would be a good solid base to launch her into the world. I feel like the country has taken a step back for women's rights, so now I am more nervous about her future but still confident we can set her up to be successful. That being said, I did not know what love was until I had my daughter. I couldn't be happier with her. Story 31. I grew up with two sisters. I am female. When I was pregnant with my two children, I hoped one would be a girl. I had two boys. I should have known. My husband's family has not had a girl in decades. I was disappointed for a brief moment and then thought to myself that I was going to be a boy mom. I was completely okay with that and even very excited. I do not understand why men are often disappointed to have a certain gender, especially a girl. Girls are typically closer to their father. If this father has any integrity, he will never let her know he was disappointed at all. Do my boys fight and almost hurt each other? Yes. Do I get shot with more Nerf guns than I ever expected? Yes. Do I love my boys with my entire being? Yes, because I am their mom and I am proud to be. Story 32. My wife is due October 3rd with our first and only child because of fertility issues. I couldn't have been happier to find out I am having a little girl. Honestly, I kind of wanted a girl, so I was happy anyway, but I would have been happy no matter what. Like others have said, men who are disappointed or have any hang-ups about having girls should take a look at themselves and reevaluate why they are having a child. Story 33. Weighing in on this even though I don't have a daughter. I have a son, and we're expecting another soon. I grew up wishing I had a bunch of brothers to play with, but had all sisters until I was almost grown. I was actually scared to have boys and was a bit disappointed and mostly scared when I first found out we were having a boy first. I'm not a super dude's dude, if that makes sense, so I was scared I wouldn't do a good job as a father to a son. I was excited to have a little girl, but I got over it and was there for my boy from day one. He's about 18 months old now, and I couldn't be happier. He's so filled with wonder and desire to learn, and he's such a rascal in the best possible way. I wouldn't trade him for the world. It sounds like he's more disappointed that reality isn't the same as his expectation and that something he was excited for won't happen. Maybe this is self-serving, but just being disappointed doesn't make someone a bad person. If they dwell on it and make it the kid's problem, then they're a poor person, but people are allowed to feel how they feel in the moment. Ultimately, he has a responsibility to that little girl he's bringing into the world to give her the love and excitement that he would have given a bit if he'd had another one. It sounds like he was very excited to have his second child, which could come from a place of love for his brothers, not an act of disdain for little girls. Hopefully, that love translates to his daughter as well. Hopefully, he gets his head out of his backside and is a rock star dad for that girl. Anything you and his wife can do to guide him in that direction is probably for the better. I don't know the whole situation. Story 34. Tell him men with daughters are proven to live longer. I have twin girls. The only thing that scares me every day is that they will have to deal with the hostile world one day. All we can do is make sure our daughters are strong, even if that means being strong against their own fathers. Tell him to raise his son to respect his sister and all women in his life, and to not become like himself. Story 35. It makes me very sad to hear that men are disappointed to learn they are having a girl. Women are and have the ability to be exceptional. In fact, many fathers who are kind and patient and invest love into their daughters end up with very successful daughters. Women can be great at sports, strong, funny, smart, and talented. Many women I have met with fathers who have been helpful and kind have daughters with their own businesses or high up in the corporate food chain. Regardless of gender, anyone has the ability to succeed. Success looks different for everyone. The message is simple. A daughter requires a different love and nurture than a son. A softer love that gives her room to grow. Daughters can tell when they are not appreciated or when their parents are not proud. As a daughter with a father who was not supportive of my passions, I suffered deeply. I envy girls with kind, patient fathers and wonder where I could have been if I had received the same treatment and environment. Learn from this. Story 36. I was thrilled about having daughters. Interestingly, certain very masculine men tend to have more daughters than average. As they say in Germany, boys get boys and men make girls. Then you have people like your friend. Story 37. 46-year-old father of 2 children. An 18-month-old boy and an 11-year-old girl. I was ecstatic. We wanted a girl and she came through. She was everything we wanted, and now that she is 11, she is so much more. Such a great child with a heart of gold. Story 38. I am a daughter of a father who wanted boys, and all I can say is I feel sorry for that little girl. I spent my entire childhood trying to make my dad notice me and want to do things with me. All I wanted was for him to want to know me and hang out, but he never did. He prioritized everything over me and didn't even come to my graduations. This caused many issues with my self-esteem and made it really hard for me to have romantic relationships with men. I chose not to have a relationship with him as an adult and haven't seen or spoken to him for almost a decade. Story 39. I have 2 daughters, now adults, with whom I have wonderful relationships. They are smart and funny and are the best things that could have ever happened to me. I love them both very much. Story 40. I found out when she was born. I had 0 time to prepare, and I was over the moon. I was sure we were having a boy, and it was the first of many things I've been wrong about regarding my kids. It was an adjustment to change diapers and make sure that everything was clean. It wasn't always great to have pink everything, but all in all, she's the single greatest thing ever. Truth be told, when we had a second child and it turned out to be a boy, my initial reaction shocked me. I realized I was hoping for another girl. My son is great, and I don't regret anything about the way things worked out. But in that moment after he was born and I found out I now had one of each kind of baby, it was a strange feeling to realize I didn't know anything about boys and I was much more prepared for another girl. Anyway, spend time with your child, love them, and everything else works out fine. Story 41. I think this is potentially not the real reason he's in denial or disappointed. If it is, though, he needs to grow up. My husband took a while to say it when we found out about our first daughter, but he was just scared in the end. He didn't know how to raise a girl, and he thought he would know how to raise a boy better. Now he is a proud father of 2 daughters and is probably more devoted to them than I am. Sometimes men just need a moment to adjust and realize they can be just as good a parent to a girl as they can be to a boy. Story 42. My family line has had 15 boys in a row. We could not have been more excited to find out we were breaking the streak with our daughter. 8 weeks in, and she is the light of our life. Story 43. My wife had an amniocentesis at 20 weeks due to her age, 40. I answered when the hospital called about her results. I took notes as she conveyed the news that everything was absolutely fine. She then asked if we wanted to know our baby's gender, as the amniocentesis provided a definitive answer. I said yes, and she told me that we were having a girl. We talked a little longer and then hung up. I looked down at my notes and saw I had written one more word. Wonderful. My daughter is now 18, and my scribbled notes are in her memory box. Story 44. I was overwhelmed with joy and could not wait to meet her. 15 years later, she is still one of the most awesome people I have ever met. Playing with her dresses and bows was as much fun as it could have been with a boy. Story 45. To be honest, in this age of progressive politics, I would not see a girl as a liability. A girl is likely to be taken care of and succeed in society. Although it may sound bad, she may actually be a parent's ticket not necessarily to a good life but to a decent one where they all survive to a ripe old age. In developing countries, attractive girls still marry into wealthy families, and they all survive and thrive together as one unit. It is getting harder to adapt to now with all this single individualism going around the world. Story 46. I really wanted my first child to be a boy. I always believed that a boy with a little sister grows up better than those without. But once my daughter was born, I couldn't imagine anything else. Then twin daughters arrived. I am not having more than 3 children in pursuit of a son. What can I do with a son that I cannot do with daughters? Besides, if you are a good father, your daughters absolutely adore you for life. Story 47. The same as when my son was born. Kids are kids. They grow into their own personalities as you raise them. Why would I feel differently about it? I do fun activities with my son, and I do fun activities with my daughter. They have different preferences. My son, age 14, prefers to go out and try foods he hasn't tried yet to gain new experiences. My daughter, age 9, loves to go out and find plush toys. She reviews them like a YouTube reviewer. It's all good fun and we have a good time. Story 48. I am very happy because I did not want more children, and I know the pressure would have been much higher if we had a second son since my wife had a strong preference. I wish my children did not fight so much. That might have happened with 2 boys as well. Story 49. Your friend's husband should have been aware that when someone has a child, there is a 50-50 chance of having a boy or a girl. It is very strange that he never imagined having a daughter. Personally, I have never had children. I would be happy to have a child someday. To be honest, I might see it as a bonus if it was a boy. Men often want to have boys, and women often want to have girls. But once the baby arrives, you love it no matter what. Story 50. Your friend's husband is not very smart. I would say I had the same reaction to the news as if I found out it was a boy. I have 2 girls. While I did think about all the things that normally happen in the future, like boyfriends, prom, marriage, grandchildren, and so on, I do not think my reaction would be different. By the way, having a girl does not mean they cannot try again for another boy. This man just sounds like he is acting foolish. Story 51. I wanted a boy. When they told me it was going to be a girl, I was thrilled. The second time, I wanted another girl but got a boy. Story 52. I was really nervous because I thought I did not know the first thing about raising a girl. By the 3rd child, I was worried we would have a boy because the first 2 were girls and I did not know anything different. 3 girls, and I would not have it any other way. They are awesome. Story 53. Sometimes I wonder what life would be like if I had a daughter in the mix. I have 2 sons. It goes without saying that I love them, but I can't help but feel that there is an entire facet of parenting, life even, that I am not experiencing. Sometimes I wish I could. I would love it if my boys could have a sister. Story 54. I was excited. I didn't care what we had as long as it was healthy. Raising a girl was fun. She'd dress up in pink and would sometimes ask me to put a pink shirt on, which I did. I sat through many tea parties and the like. I have no regrets. I have a nephew who wanted all boys. He said he would not accept anything else. They have 3 girls. He was upset for a while because he wanted boys to raise to men. Just embrace that you have healthy kids. He still randomly asks if there is something in the family that caused it and is upset that the family name is fading. Fine by me. I won't be around. Story 55. I was surprised because I already had a son and honestly thought it would be another boy, but I am very excited to meet my daughter. I am going to treat her like an absolute princess. I could not imagine not being excited to meet a new baby regardless of gender. Story 56. Father of 3 here. I have never experienced gender disappointment myself. It may not be something a person can help feeling, but it is as close to an objectively wrong way to feel as you can get when discussing emotions. This is a whole brand new person coming into the world who is going to depend on you for many things for a very long time. Do not start your relationship with them by wishing they were not who they are. Get help for yourself if you need it. Focus on hoping for a healthy child and providing everything you can for them. My 2 cents. Story 57. Just play Post Malone's song Yours Alone and prepare to have an emotional cry. If you don't cry, you may not have a soul. Story 58. I'm not a male, but I was a huge daddy's girl. I'm interested in many stereotypically male activities, including video games and metal music, all thanks to my father's influence. I practiced martial arts as a child. The gender of your child does not determine who they will become. How you raise them does. Why does being a girl mean they have to like pink dresses and bows? I reject that idea. I dislike gender stereotypes, and my parents allowed me to enjoy whatever I liked without discouraging me because it was considered a boy's activity. A boy might like pink things. It's just less common because they are often shamed for these preferences. Story 59. I could not have been happier. She is beautiful. I love her more than anything I ever thought possible. Watching her grow into the amazing person that she is has changed me profoundly. The relationship we have is one of the purest forms of love I can think of. Your partner sounds unpleasant. Story 60. 2 daughters and we are not having more. I did not care what the gender was going to be. I only cared that they were healthy and that my wife had no complications. I love them both more than I knew possible. This person sounds like a loser. Story 61. Excited. Actually less scared than a boy, because coming from an all-boy family, we were pretty dumb and wild until mid-teens. Also, having a girl allowed me to access a huge reservoir of emotional capacity I had repressed because I couldn't just repeat the stupid way I was raised. I really had to engage and think. That improved our marriage, my headspace, and we ended up with a fantastic daughter of whom we swell with pride just thinking of her. Everyone brings cultural baggage and family expectations to parenthood. Mine were weak enough to break. For others, it might not be so easy. Story 62. Excited with the first child. I just wanted to have a child. Did not care if it was a boy or girl. Slightly disappointed when I found out the second child was also a girl. I was really hoping for one of each. I got over it quickly enough though. Story 63. Our daughter is intelligent and beautiful inside and out. She has just started working with her father in his construction company, and she is excelling. She is high maintenance, but she takes care of herself. He could not be prouder. No real man would prefer a son, especially when he already has one. Story 64. Wow, he is so wrong. My childhood was like that of a wild animal. I was nowhere near pink dresses and high maintenance. Girls are children, and children are exactly how you raise them. If you raise a girl telling her she has to be a girl, she might be that, not always, but might. I was never restrained like this, so I jumped in the mud, climbed trees, fought with other kids, and played sports. Girls are energetic and wild like all kids are. If he is going to resent her and treat her differently, then of course she will give off this kind of energy. She will learn from her dad that to be loved, she has to be pretty, cute, and well, a girl. Children are not dumb. They are just inexperienced in life. Story 65. Nervous here. I grew up with a brother, so I didn't know what to expect. I had never changed a diaper before my son, but since we share anatomies, it was no problem. However, I was very stressed about changing my daughter's diaper and doing it correctly to avoid urinary tract infections because all the women in my life kept warning me about wiping properly. But just like with my son, I learned quickly, and we haven't had any problems. I love my daughter. She is 1.5 years old, and her little personality is emerging. I can't wait to get to know her and guide her every step of the way. I know we are going to have a blast together. I love my children. They bring tremendous joy to my life. Story 66. My ex-husband had a daughter before I met him. When he found out I was having a girl, he gave me his wedding ring back and told me I ruined his life. He has not seen her in 6 months and for another 2 years before that. He is now paying 2 child support bills. Story 67. I don't have daughters. I have nieces, though. They are awesome. Both are teenagers now, but not nearly as high maintenance as you might think. Also, it's fun just hanging out with them sometimes. Shopping. They can give some interesting fashion advice. Painting their nails, helping them with boy problems. Whatever maintenance they need, they mostly do themselves. They just ask for opinions on which color matches which outfit better sometimes. Really not much different from boys in most aspects. Same worries, same responsibilities, same experiences to learn. Except the real feminine issues, but that is what their mother is for. Story 68. Our first child, a son, was a loss. Stillbirth at 38 weeks. The pregnancies for our next 2 children could only be described as tense, anxious, and cautiously optimistic. Our second child is my son, and it felt bittersweet but also fulfilling because we had been ready for his brother years before. He is great. He is the best. Our third child is my daughter, and in a way it felt fresh and less burdened with baggage. I had always wanted a daughter. I grew up with 2 younger brothers and needed a change of pace. Now that she is here 8 months old, she is the best. It is unfair how cute she is. Your friend's husband needs to get his head out of his own way. What an incredibly foolish thing to be disappointed over. Losing Zane, my first son, was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my entire life, but it is also the event that split my life in half. After Zane, I became a more accepting and optimistic person. Life throws all sorts of challenges at you, and you will collapse under the weight of all of it if you do not roll with it. When asked, "Do you want a girl or a boy?" I just want a healthy, happy child. Story 69. Amazing. I work in construction, and many men have asked me, "Aren't you disappointed you are not having a boy?" Absolutely not. I have spent my entire career around men, and I am thrilled to go home to my daughters. Story 70. Okay, before we knew the sex, I was kind of scared of having a girl. Mostly because I was afraid of helping her navigate an experience I have never had. Women face a lot of struggles that I have no experience with, and I was worried about my ability to help her with that. But the second we found out it was a girl, for whatever reason, all that fear left me, and it was just joy. I don't know, the father instinct kicked in and pushed out all those fears. To be clear, it wasn't that I ever wanted a son over a daughter. I was just worried about my own ability to help her through things I have not experienced, afraid I would be a bad father. Now that I am a father to a daughter, looking back, that was so silly. I love my daughter, and I can no longer even picture my life without her. When I hear these stories of fathers wanting sons, it honestly makes me furious. What are you, a 13th century aristocrat, worried about passing on your crown? I understand fear of trying to be a good dad to her, but when it's not that, when it's disappointment about not having brothers, it's deeply upsetting. What deep-seated misogyny is this? Can't you love a daughter just as much as a son? Story 71. Over the moon. Best thing that ever happened to me. Walking into the house after work and having her run to hug me and start telling me about her day even before I've taken my coat off is the greatest thing ever. Story 72. Just asked my husband, who is very into sports. That is not a real man. Real men love their kids no matter what. Story 73. We found out when she was born. as we avoided knowing the gender of our baby beforehand. I can say it was the best surprise I have had in my life. I was so happy. I hope your friend's husband matures a little. His daughter deserves a dad who loves and values her. Story 74. I think my exact thought was something like, yay! A little girl who will grow up to be like her mother, who is the best person ever in the history of people. As a man who grew up with both brothers and sisters, thinking one kind of sibling is better than the other is just foolish. It changes at a certain point. You can roughhouse together when you're 6, but you need to dial it back when you're 16. When you are old enough to be interested in girls, having an older sister to assist and advise is really helpful. As a father of both daughters and sons, the one most like me is our older daughter. Story 75. Happiest day of my life. It edges out the day my son was born because with my daughter, I also saw the joy on his face when he met her. Story 76. As someone whose father did not want a daughter, growing up was not pleasant. I really hope he comes around to it. Hopefully, he just needs some time to process. Story 77. I fell down because I had to learn how to do girls' hair. I have been fading my own hair for 30 years and was looking forward to not having to pay for haircuts ever again. I have been doing my daughter's hair since she came into the world, and I am not looking forward to the astronomical prices women have to pay for their hair. That is a long way off though, as she barely sits still long enough for me to put in Dutch braids at 3 years old. Story 78. I think I wanted a boy more because I know all about being a boy. Seemed easier. Plus, there is the old idea that if you have a boy, you only have to worry about one penis, but if you have a girl, you have to worry about all of them. That idea gets in your head sometimes. I wasn't sad or despondent about it, just kind of like, oh okay, I guess we will figure it out. She is 15 now, and she is great. She likes camping and the outdoors. She is not into mountain bikes like I am, but that is cool, most people are not. She is into computer games and concerts, basically the same things I enjoy. There is a lot I did not know about makeup, hair, and so on. I have painted many nails and had them painted too. It is all fun, and I love it. I do not regret for a second having a girl or not having a boy. Story 79. Maybe he should just focus on raising both your children to be respectful and independent people, and he will not have to worry about whether she likes pink items or not. Story 80. I was well pleased. I did not want sons, having grown up among boys who were obnoxious in the main. It meant I did not have to think about trying again if we had had a boy. But by then, any more children were off the cards anyway. I got what I wanted. Story 81. These individuals are insensitive and unkind. We have no control over the biological sex of our children, at least until designer babies become a reality. Just because someone had many brothers and desires the same for their family does not mean their sperm will determine that outcome. Additionally, assuming that girls only care about wearing pink and putting bows in their hair is a misunderstanding. This perspective is uninformed. Story 82. I started out wanting a boy and a girl, not necessarily in that order. As it happened, I started with a boy and then a girl, and it has been pretty balanced since then. I was happy when I found out the second child was a girl. Honestly, it would not have mattered as long as they were healthy. I would not have been upset if I had all boys or all girls. That just seems very strange to me. Story 83. I am a woman with older brothers and was a rough and tumble tomboy growing up, so my mother felt left out. Functionally, my parents had all boys until I was around 14 or 15. Even with puberty and dating, I still played sports and enjoyed traditional male spaces, in addition to having close female friendships. It was the best of both worlds, in my experience. Story 84. Honestly, I was happy the baby was healthy, but I also wanted my son to have a brother as I did. Of course, now I wouldn't change that for the world. Daughters have a way of making men mature into the kind of men we should aspire to be. My daughter taught me patience and softened me a bit. If your friend's husband is anything like me, his world will revolve around that girl faster than he ever thought possible. Story 85. Opposite perspective here. I am a mother to 3 boys. I absolutely love all my children, but I was very sad when I found out the third was a boy. Not because there is anything wrong with boys, but because I had always pictured having a daughter one day. While I think some of your friends' concerns are jumping to conclusions, many boys are high maintenance and girls can be calm. I have a lot of sympathy for gender disappointment and mourning a life you had always imagined. Story 86. Happy. In my family, there were 4 boys and 1 girl, and the girl was a tomboy. Even my mother was not traditionally feminine, and I felt a lack of femininity in my life. I always wanted a daughter, and in fact, my first child was. I was very happy about that. Got exactly what I wanted. But I didn't feel like a full family until we had our second child, who was a boy. I always wanted a son too, so things worked pretty much perfectly for me. Very happy with the results. Story 87. About damn time. Took 3 tries but finally got her. Never really cared as long as the baby was healthy. We wanted a girl to complete the family, but we would have been happy either way. Story 88. Girls are high maintenance, but her husband should remember his own childhood and realize little boys are no picnic either. I am someone who did a lot of stereotypically masculine things with my dad and granddads growing up. I would love to have those experiences with a son one day too. But when the nurse told us it was a girl, I did not care at all because she said before that she could see fingers and toes and everything looking normal. A healthy, happy child is the most important thing, and I think your friend's husband will realize that when he sees her face after she is born. Story 89. I was happy. I was leaning toward wanting a girl. I ended up with 2 of them, and they are amazing. Being in denial about your child's gender is harmful. Story 90. Your friend sounds unpleasant to be honest. I have a son and had no issues when I found out my second child was a girl. Story 91. He sounds like the type of man who will suddenly realize that women are people once he has a daughter he cares about. Maybe. Story 92. Initially, I wanted 2 sons. The idea of raising 2 boys seemed much easier. As it got closer to actually having children, I changed my mind and thought 2 girls would probably make for a closer, more caring and loving family. So by the time I actually had our first child, a girl, I was happy with it. Basically, I didn't care if they were going to be a boy or a girl. We just wanted a healthy baby. By the way, they are more high maintenance. Story 93. Well, I was the happiest man alive to be having a child. I was indifferent about the child's gender. I already had a boy, and people would say, "Oh, you must be happy it's a girl because now you have a boy and a girl." I felt nothing of that sort. I would be equally happy to have another boy. I had no expectations. I feel that having expectations in this situation is not very smart and is unfair to the child. Story 94. Honestly, it really did not matter whether it was a boy or a girl. I have 3 sons, a daughter, and guardianship of my nieces. They are all very different. I never had any preference before they were born. Do not get me wrong, my daughter can be difficult, but she is also the most beautiful girl in the world. Story 95. I have a friend who drinks and hunts with her father. They are very close. She is in her early 50s, and since she left for college as a teenager, she has talked to her parents every single day when they are not together. Story 96. A family member really wanted a boy. He has 3 girls and finally has a son. His son is different from his other children. He has severe temper tantrums, hits his head on the walls and crib to self-soothe, and has upper digestive issues that make him scream when his stomach hurts. He has been walking for some time, but on his tiptoes and still falls a lot. The family member is disengaged. He cheats on his wife and apparently treats his other children with more compassion, even though his son is the youngest and clearly has special needs. Story 97. Considering I wanted daughters, I was the happiest man on the planet, and 17 years later, my life has been indescribably blessed to have them in my life. Story 98. I was very excited. My wife broke down and cried. She did not want a girl, only boys. So I have 2 boys and 1 girl. Story 99. I wasn't disappointed, but more worried. I know the anatomy of a boy and wouldn't have to worry about poor hygiene or yeast infections. I was also worried about her growing older and me having to take her to the bathroom in men's rooms. Things like that. Story 100. My dad raised 4 daughters. Everyone always asked if he wished he had a son. He always replied, "No, I love my girls." Story 101. I am not a father, but I am an uncle and a godfather. When my niece was born, I immediately wanted to protect her from boys because I was once a boy and know what boys are like. Story 102. I was very excited when we found out my wife was pregnant with a girl the first time. With baby number 2, we were honestly dreading it being a boy. 2 daughters later, it's awesome. My oldest is almost 5, and she loves fishing. In the fall, she is constantly asking to go with me to the duck blind and go hunting. She also likes princesses, dresses, and the color pink. All kids require effort and attention to some extent. Story 103. Nervous at first, like I didn't know what to do with them. But then I figured I would just do the same as I would with a son. It's working out pretty well so far. The only big difference is my wife won't let her near any of my motorcycles or let her ride with me. I would probably offer more pushback if a son were asking, but it's just not worth that fight right now. Story 104. I will never understand that. My son's father was the same. It needs to be a boy. Why? I was almost disappointed that we did have a boy, only because I did not want him to get what he wanted. Story 105. My daughter is my second child. At the time, I was glad to have both. But now that they are adults, I have a much stronger bond with my daughter. I feel that fathers are close to their daughters. I had expectations for my son to be a man, which created a bit of a wedge between us. My daughter could do no wrong. I feel the same is true for a boy and his mother. Mothers and daughters seem to have that same wedge. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.